Amiibo!
On Friday, March 26, 2021, all hell broke loose on the internet. The newly released Banjo, Terry, and Byleth amiibo were absolutely nowhere to be found. The Animal Crossing Sanrio amiibo card crossover sold out in 20 seconds and brought parts of Target.com down with it. Monster Hunter Rise amiibo never had a fighting chance, as it's not clear that American retailers were even given an inventory of them in the first place. Target's website crashed, Amazon listings went down and up and down again, and every brick-and-mortar store opened during the pandemic quickly flooded with angry customers. Nintendo had managed to both succeed and fail, as usual. They had created high-quality, in-demand amiibo for popular games just in time for spring break and after the stimulus checks released, and had completely underestimated the demand for them. The swarm of biblical proportions made the front page of most gaming news outlets. Twitter hashtags began trending, and even my own website, AmiiboDoctor.com, had nearly 200,000 more visits for these new amiibo than normal. But is this enough for Nintendo to re-embrace amiibo? And is this enough for a rebirth of interest in amiibo among fans? For that first question, it's hard to say. Nintendo is a very secretive company, and their business decisions rarely make sense at first. Or ever. After all, Nintendo has largely shoved amiibo to the side of its focus, with only a few games having any sort of major support besides simple unlockables. Aside from Super Smash Bros. And Animal Crossing, most amiibo-compatible games don't interact with amiibo in any major way. We don't talk about Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. It's really not clear why this is the case. According to TweakTown.com, Nintendo sold 50 million amiibo before Smash Ultimate even released, which is as far back as 2018. At $13 each, that's about $650 million of revenue. One can only assume it's massively increased since then, due in large part to the wild success of Smash Ultimate, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and the overall Nintendo Switch. So Amiibo is probably a billion-dollar enterprise that could be far larger if it had enough support. Great! Then why can't I find any Amiibo on shelves anywhere? Well, that's because of the second question. I believe this event is a rebirth of interest for Amiibo. Take a look at this Google Trends graph here. The search term is Amiibo bin files. Amiibo bin files are just the file type needed to make your own homemade Amiibo, as we've explained on this channel before. Look at the dates. People were more interested in making their own Amiibo the week of March 26th than they were at any point in Amiibo's history ever. That graph goes back 5 years. Interest in piracy isn't the only indicator either. Google's overall search trends indicate that interest for Amiibo in general, just the Amiibo search term, was nearly at an all-time high. More intensive analysis indicate that Amiibo has only been more popular in 2 other time periods, the start of the COVID quarantines, and for the first year of Amiibo's existence when dozens of them were releasing regularly. For reference, these 11 different Amiibo and Amiibo cards generated almost as much interest as dozens of new Amiibo generated in 2014. Amiibo has its mojo back, boys and girls. But can Nintendo keep the mojo, and if so, how? If Nintendo is serious about keeping this mojo going, there's a couple of things that they should do. First, Nintendo should reprint the Amiibo that released on March 26 to satisfy the customer demand. While much of the demand was filled by Etsy Amiibo card sellers, Nintendo can still capture back some of the market that they created. I know from my conversations with Etsy Amiibo card sellers that most of their customer base comes from fans who simply aren't able to find the Amiibo figures for sale, and thus have to turn to probably less than legal alternatives. Considering that the largest Amiibo card sellers do this full-time and make 6 figures, it's pretty clear that Nintendo is missing a major market that they could easily fill. Second, Nintendo should introduce larger compatibility into upcoming games. Having Amiibo functionality in Smash 4 and Ultimate was nice and moved a lot of units, but other games need to carry the weight as well. Breath of the Wild is a good example of this. Breath of the Wild sold more Amiibo than any game besides Smash 4 until Ultimate came out, and it's still giving New Horizons a run for its money. If Breath of the Wild 2, Pokemon Legends, Splatoon 3, Skyward Sword HD, or the Diamond and Pearl remakes doesn't have some deep and interesting Amiibo compatibility, you can kiss those revenues goodbye. Mwah. Each of these games all have dedicated fan bases who enjoy their games very much. You've seen how much money Pokemon fans will spend on official and unofficial merchandise. You saw how well the Legend of Zelda amiibo sold when Breath of the Wild came out. We took note of the Splatoon 1 and 2 amiibo lines upon their release. Putting out amiibo for these games is a surefire thing. Third, the most popular Nintendo Switch games should be updated to introduce some amiibo compatibility or add more benefits from using amiibo. Why doesn't Super Mario Maker 2 have amiibo functionality? Who says the Steve amiibo shouldn't work with Minecraft Bedrock Edition? Would it keep you from liking and subscribing if I suggested a Fortnite amiibo? Actually, don't answer that. Nintendo has held back amiibo from many of its mainstream franchises, with Pokemon being the best example of this. There are 2 sets of Pokemon games available on Nintendo Switch, with 2 more on the way. Hell, there's not a bit of amiibo functionality in any of them. Nintendo's teasing us about it. Look at the official amiibo support page for Pokemon Sword and Shield. It's blank. Why bother making it if you're not going to put anything on it? At the end of the day, amiibo is a highly potent market maneuver that Nintendo has never fully taken advantage of. They've rarely adequately stocked amiibo, with the accusations of artificial scarcity continuing to be thrown around to this day. Amiibo functionality is minimal in modern Nintendo games, even insofar as simple unlockables are concerned. It's nearly impossible to find older amiibo for less than twice their original MSRP unless Nintendo restocked them less than a month ago. I'll admit, some days I wake up in the morning and I get this feeling that Nintendo is trying to kill amiibo. But I don't think the fans will let it happen. If Nintendo stops producing amiibo figures, we can just make our own. Thank you for watching.